Hello and welcome to another episode of the Trash Talk Podcast. I'm your host JJ, and with me today I have pimpkarp. You're not Sergey.
Howdy. What's up?
You're not from that far south.
No, not quite. I'm south part of my state, but not quite that far south.
I was about to say, I don't think they say howdy from around where you are. So anyways, we wanted to talk today about... I get myself distracted on the intro. Very professional. We want to talk today about the new cards from the mini set, and I wanted to, very quickly before that, I didn't tell you that beforehand, but I wanted to quickly also look at this. I don't know if you can... Mm-hmm. If you're looking at my screen. So they nerfed 2 cards, and I haven't talked about it yet because I figured it was not worth making a report about 2 cards, and I knew we were going to talk about today anyways. So, there's also a cat, conveniently. So, what do you think about the recent Paladin Nerfs? Let's start with that.
Much needed. While the first day of school nerf, the initial one, it definitely affected aggro decks more so than like the more mid-rangey kind of either Libram Paladin, or now you've got like Menagerie Paladin becoming a thing. It hurt the aggro decks a lot more just because you don't have that turn 1 play that you can consistently do. But it still gave them so much value because there's so many good 1-drops in the game right now because the card pool is much more limited. So I definitely am happy that they nerfed it again. I still think it'll probably see some play, but Paladin's broken enough that they don't need any more weapons as it is. And the Hand of a Dull nerf is kind of just... I don't want to say it's unnecessary, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it's good. A little bit weaker, but it's still going to see play. It's not going to change how it's played at all.
Yeah, I think generally with those sort of cards, it is more about the attack buff than the health buff. I mean, the health buff is nice, but you don't play it because of that primarily, so it's card draw, it buffs the attack. Yeah, just wanted to quickly bring it up. Also, for some reason, they decided to change Unbound Elemental to say after rather than whenever. Yeah. I don't think there's literally any... I don't know. I feel like the only case where that would matter is if you were trying to lightning bolt it, because I think, like, if you lightning bolt your own one when it's at 3 health, I think it lives with the old text, but doesn't with the new one. But also, I don't think anyone cares.
No, it doesn't see that much play anyway, at least as far as I know.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen it hugely. I mean, they did buff it so that it's actually in line with its vanilla stats, like, when they put it in the core set, but I just found it interesting that they did that. I wonder if they literally just possibly did it either for some consistency with other cards, or to just have it be in 2 lines of text so it doesn't look so daunting. I don't know. Because,
I mean, I know Hearthstone tends to have a habit of not having the most consistent text from card to card. They'll change certain things, and they still do it to this day. But I think they are trying to make a more concerted effort to kind of keep in line with the specific card text from card to card. But yeah, I mean, I think that might be part of it.
Helps, though. One thing that I did notice while you mentioned that is that they have also started making more cards where if you read the text, you have no idea what it does, really. Or it's... Well, I guess not no idea, but like, where it's a lot more complicated to intuit what it does right offhand. They started adding stuff like lackeys and also some other text. I guess they're not as bad as ETC. I guess maybe I'm just imagining things. Like the original ETC, where I know it's just one... give players the power to rock. It's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, that doesn't tell you anything. No, more recently, I know they just changed the wording of it because someone pointed it out. The Shield Slam text with spell damage, the way it read initially, it would imply that if you had spell damage, it would do +1 damage per armor that you have. But in reality, it only gives you +1 damage. So let's say you have 8 armor and you have +1 spell damage, it would only do 9. But if you're not sure, you would expect it to do 16. They just changed that. That's one of the things that they did in the recent one.
Do believe that... Well, I can't find it offhand, but I believe it's somewhere in here, in this list of bug fixes and improvements.
I forget.
But, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Honestly, I was never confused by Shield Slam. I would have never, but to be fair, it's not necessarily very intuitive how things work. I mean, Arcane Missiles makes 1 extra missile if you have spell damage, but Greater Arcane Missiles just makes the individual missiles deal more damage, so...
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
Hearthstone consistency.
I guess you don't have to be as consistent as, say, Magic the Gathering, where it's physical cards, and you have to have someone adjudicate what they do. Like, this is just like, the game does it for you. Like, you don't need to understand how it works.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I guess if you're a pro player, you need to understand how it works, but at that point, you don't need to know what the text is. But what we're actually here for is the new cards. These are not new collectible cards that I'm currently showing. These are just for context. Whenever one of the cards refer to adventurers, they mean these guys. They all have one random keyword. They have Taunt, Divine Shield, Spell Damage +1, Lifesteal, Wind Fury, Poisonous, Stealth, and Rush. Otherwise, they're 2-mana 2/2s, as you can see. That's... I don't think we have to talk about this unless you had a keyword that you really would have liked them to include, like charge. Or
I'm glad that they didn't include charge.
Yeah, no. Someone on Reddit was like, "Oh, they should have put Overload too," but it's like, of course, that's silly. Anyways, that is not it. Okay, there we go. We have a full list of the cards, and for anyone that doesn't like how I'm currently displaying these, I'm sorry. The Hearthstone card collection, the official one, doesn't actually have filter for the mini sets. Neither does the game itself, which is also weird, right? If you're in the game, I mean, right now you can filter by new cards, but you can't really filter for the mini sets specifically for example, the previous expansion. But anyways, that's a minor complaint. We're here to actually talk about the cards, and I'm eating up too much time already because there's a lot of these. 35 different cards, to be precise. I guess we're going to quickly mention every card and see if you have anything to say about them. For Demon Hunter, we have the Sigil of Summoning, which is a spell that at the start of your next turn, summon 2/2/2 demons with Taunt. Seems okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I haven't played much Demon Hunter since the launched. The only card that I'm familiar with of these three is the middle one, but Sigil doesn't seem like something that's necessarily an auto-include at this point. It seems like it's okay to discover, maybe, but...
I mean, this kind of reminds me of the Dormant minions, where, you know, you get the delayed effect. I mean, it's basically just dormant for one turn, sort of idea. Doesn't take up board space while it is dormant, which I guess is a benefit, but it seems okay, and I don't really see it fitting into anything that Demon Hunter is doing right now, which is, I think, the main problem.
Yeah.
I think someone like some class like Warrior might actually love this. Anything that's control probably would like this, but Demon Hunter, I don't know. So we have, you mentioned you know him, Taint Heart Tormentor, 8 mana, 8/8.
Yes.
Demon with Taunt. Your opponent's spells cost 2 more.
Yes, and my only experience with that is playing my current favorite deck of the new mini set, which is Miracle Druid, which, what's that 8 mana spell? Crap. The one that gives you 8 armor and summons an 8 cost minion. Why am I blanking on it now?
Right, that's a good point. Cenarian something? Is that what it is?
Yes, Cenarian Ward. Yes,
Cenarian Ward,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that card. Got that card from a Cenarian Ward when I was playing that deck, and I'm like, wow, that's a great card to add to that pool. It's fantastic. It screws your opponent over so much. Because the spell, I didn't even realize that, because it has the spell damage or spell cost increase to it. So that I like that a lot. To discover, not necessarily to include.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess, that's a good random 8-drop. You're right about that for sure. It kind of reminds me of, I mean, we had similar effects as Battle Cries. It's kind of interesting to have this as a passive. I don't think we've had that before with spells. I think we had it with minions. But it's like, any minions cost 1 more to play or something. Or, I think it was Battle Cry minions cost 2 more or something. But it is interesting that this is kind of hard to deal with. Because if you want to, assassinate it, I don't think that's a meta spell right now. But, if you want to, have a destroy effect or a polymorph or something, that also costs more. So it's actually harder to deal with in that way. Yep. So I don't think there's any destroy effect that necessarily costs 8 mana for a single target. Fell Rattler is a 3 mana 3/2 beast for Demon Hunter with Rush and notably a Death Rattle. Deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. So I mean, it works with Death Rattle synergies, but it doesn't seem like a good Death Rattle.
Nah, it doesn't seem that great. Unless I'm blanking on any cards that can rapidly reduce the health of all minions or all enemy minions. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that strong.
Not for Demon Hunter. I mean, if you were a Paladin, this would be great. Or a Warrior with Baroth, which now that I remember is... It's like, there was a lot of classes that would like this card. Not Demon Hunter.
No.
the Druid cards. We have Fangbound Druid, which is a 3-mana 4/3 taunt death rattle. Reduce the cost of a beast in your hand by 2. I know this was discussed in our server a bit regarding Guardian Animals.
Yep. Seems okay. It doesn't seem like it has the best synergy for a deck that you want to constantly be drawing from, especially when you can, if you really wanted to have better cards. I don't know. I understand what someone made a point about how if you accidentally draw a bunch of your beasts, you can't play them with the guardian animals. It'll help you with the later part of the game at that point. But at that, I feel like if you're doing that, you just want to have. I'm blanking on the spell names at this point. The 10 mana plus 4/4.
Survival of the Fittest.
Yeah, I'm so bad with card names. So that, I feel like you'd rather have that maybe with some clowns. I know that's a whole slightly different deck at that point anyway, but it seems like if you're teching in that card, you have better late game options for Druid.
Yeah, I guess this is the best part about this is that it's also a good early game taunt. It doesn't really lack any stats. It's a 3-mana 4/3. You'd probably prefer a 3/4, but otherwise, yeah, the beast part, I don't see it. I've said this before, like, it seems like every now and again, Blizzard decides they want to have a beast theme in Druid, and it always seems like they're not getting enough per expansion to actually make it work. I mean, I guess Guardian Animals work, but that's not really Druids doing beasts. It's really just more like Druid doing like some beasts as a package rather than like a beast themed deck. So Beast Druid, never really a thing. But I feel like in Wild there's enough Beast Druid cards that you could make a Beast Druid that might be viable in Standard, but it's still not good enough for Wild, so it's something. What do you think about Lady Anaconda, who's a 6-mana 3/7 with makes your nature spells, which I guess is most Druid spells, cost 2 less?
Yeah, I love that card. It's my favorite card of the mini set, I think, right now. So like I said, Miracle Druid is my current favorite deck. It doesn't have, I just looked up before we started I don't have the paid version of Hearthstone Replay, so I don't see, high diamond legend kind of stats. But currently, Miracle Druid has a win rate of 31.6%. So not great, but it's an extremely fun deck because it doesn't have the greatest early game, but once you hit that turn 7 with a Celestial Alliance, whatever it's called.
Celestial Alignment does sound correct.
Yeah. That next turn, Lady Anaconda for 1 mana. Oh my gosh, you just play everything. Cenarian Ward costs 0. Nourish costs 0. Overgrowth, Wild Growth, Fungal Fortunes, they all cost 0. And if you run like Cthulhu or Yogg, you're basically just cycling through your whole deck at that point and possibly just getting to your Cthulhu on 1 turn. Even if you have like 10 plus cards left in your deck, it's actually insane once you get that swing turn. It's very fun.
Yeah, I see why it's called Miracle Druid. I mean, with HS Replay, those sort of decks usually skew a bit lower than they actually are. Yeah. So like the winner is probably a bit better because if you just give a beginner player that's on the low ranks that deck, they just copy paste it off of someone, then they don't know how to play it correctly, and then that skews it a bit. Whereas aggro decks tend to perform a bit better at low ranks than you would expect. But I don't think that if you said 30-some%, that's not going to be a viable deck, no matter what.
I mean, I've played 2 games at high plat with it, and I went 2 and 3, including one against a Face Hunter. The only one I lost was against a Control Priest, but that was me playing stupidly at the end of the game where I could have actually, held off on my Cthulhu. But I don't know. I like you said, I don't think it's going to be meta changing. I don't think it's going to be a super viable ladder deck, but I think it's fun, and I think it has the potential to be at least a plus 40 or 40% win rate at least.
I mean, it sounds fun, and of course, with those sort of decks, it also usually they get refined slower than aggro decks. So I guess there's also some room for improvement there, possibly that we haven't yet fully worked out. But to finish out the Druid, we have the 8-mana 4/9 Deviate. Dreadfang. Read it. After you cast a nature spell, summon a 4/2 Viper with Rush.
I don't like that.
I feel like...
I think it's too costly.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like after you spend 8 mana to have this effect on the board, you're not going to stick this for very long. And playing one nature spell alongside it doesn't seem that great.
No. I mean, maybe they're trying to pull it off with Celestial Alignment again, like similar with Lady Anacondra, but it just doesn't seem that good for what it is. I don't know.
I mean,
I'm not a big fan.
If you do the Miracle thing, then you just have a board full of 4/2s, and you have only so much stuff to kill with those. I don't know. Yeah. For Hunter, we have Serpent Bloom. Give a friendly beast poisonous for 0 mana. This seems intriguing.
Okay. Yeah. I don't dislike it. It seems like it'll be interesting, especially if you want to tech in something that'll help you get like that last late game push through a taunt minion. I don't know. Seems like it's not aggressive enough for Face Hunter, so maybe more of like a mid-rangey aggro hunter deck. I could see it being a thing.
So I was thinking Face Hunter as well, and I was thinking this is only really worth it if there is, as you said, a lot of taunts in the meta, because it is a good way, because you have a lot of the Swift Hyenas out of like Pack Leader, and there's also the 1 mana. Now I'm blanking on a spell, and the 1 mana spell that deals 1 damage and summons a hyena.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called.
I
saw a game earlier where they were playing it.
But so you have a lot of ways to summon 1/1 Rush Hyenas, which in conjunction with Serpent Bloom is basically a destroy effect. So that's nice. But you have to have a cheap minion already on the board, which I guess with running Wall Protectors and all that stuff, you're gonna have something, probably, to make poisonous that can attack that turn. And you can push through a taunt, but it really has to be like you push through a taunt and you win the game, sort of. And since a lot of the damage doesn't come from the board in Face Hunter, you have Piercing Shot, you have the Trampling Rhino, which, I mean, I guess that does come from hand to some degree, but you have a lot of, and Hero Power does also not go through the board, so the idea that you have lethal on board specifically, while there's a taunt minion up, seems a bit too situational right now to specifically include. Speaking of hyenas, there's the Sindori Scent Finder, which is a 4 mana 1/6 that as a frenzy summons 4 1/1 hyenas with Rush, which is a really good way to help you get that one achievement done, I guess.
I'm honestly looking. I know we're skipping ahead a little bit. If I go to talk about the Venom Strike Bow, it seems like they're pushing a slightly more, not even controlling, but like mid-rangey, trying to handle the board Hunter, which is not how Hunter plays right now. Hunter is very aggro. Hunter is very much, I'm going to win with a bunch of cheap minions and my Trampling Rhinos and deal damage from hand, like you were talking about. It doesn't seem like the type that's worried about poisonous effects or even like frenzy effects, because then you have to figure out how to trigger that to just get. I mean, obviously, Hunter has like 1 mana spells to do it with. But I don't know. I'm not really liking the flavor for Hunter for this one. Serpent Bloom's a cute card, but outside of that card, I'm not really feeling the whole flavor for Hunter for the mini set.
Yeah, as I said, I think I could maybe conditionally see Serpent Bloom if there was like a taunt heavy meta, but otherwise, I don't really see it. As I said, like, if you want to summon 6 hyenas in a turn, like, this helps you do it, I guess, for that one achievement, because, of course, that does give you a reward track XP, but I don't think you're gonna put that in your deck just to get an achievement done, unless you do it, like, in, like, your practice game or something. So, I don't see this in a current Hunter deck. I do like Midrange Hunter as a deck. It's the first deck I ever played, but I don't really see that right now as, like, a meta-defining thing. Mage has Shattering Blast, which destroys all frozen minions for 3 mana.
Freeze Mage is coming back.
Okay.
I mean, the only Icona Cold and the one legendary that they had from the last, when this expansion dropped, the 4 mana one that freezes all enemy minions.
Oh yeah,
I could see it becoming a thing with that, but same thing with Hunter. It doesn't seem like it fits with the current way that Mage is played, and I guess
is Frostnova in core?
No, the Frostnova is not. That's what I mean. Like it doesn't seem to fit. I mean, maybe they're trying to go more control-y road with Mage again, which I personally would love. I loved Control Mage back in the day. The one with Jaina and all that, and even Highlander Mage. I love. Big Spell Mage. Yeah, that was one of my all-time favorite decks. I spent way too much dust on that. I loved that deck.
I'm still playing it to this day. Whenever I have to get like a Mage quest done in Wild or something, or sometimes I just feel like it, I still play Big Spell Mage in Wild to this day. So yeah, that's definitely a good one. I mean, it doesn't fit in there, Like, not that we're
No.
talking that much about wild anyways, but like, it's too cheap. You maybe include polymorph. I mean, I do include polymorph, which is like already a bit suspicious with Dragon's Breath. So, Frostweave Dungeoneer is a 3-mana 2/3 with Battlecry, draw a spell. If it's a frost spell, summon 2 1/1 elementals that freeze. Which just seems mediocre to bad. Like,
I mean, there was the one that they already printed. That's the 3-mana one that I only know exists because I get it off of Fauna Power. That one that's I think it's like a 3/4 that when you play a frost spell, you summon a 1/1 elemental that freezes. That card never sees play. Literally, the only time it's played is when it's discovered in Spell Mage.
yeah.
So it's a similar concept. I just don't see it.
Like, the problem with these sort of cards, I think there's 3 Dungeoneer cards, is like, they only really are worth it if you play a deck that only has spells of that particular spell tribe. What are they called? They have a name.
Yeah.
Spell schools. I think that's what they call them. But anyways.
Probably.
So, it's only worth it if all your spells are frost spells. And Mage of all classes is not the one to do that sort of thing. If you tell a Druid to only run nature spells, or a Shaman to only run a certain type maybe, but there's so many different mage spells. They're all like fire, frost, and arcane. It's just too varied.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah. And pretty much every spell that Mage plays right now tends to be arcane if it's anything. So yeah, I guess really fit.
If you had like the Arcane Weave Dungeoneer, this might work, but
yeah,
that's a dumb name.
And it
it would have had a different name.
Yeah.
And Flowcaster. Or sorry, you want to say anything else?
No, I was gonna say with the Flowcaster, they're really trying to make Freeze Mage a thing.
Yeah,
I don't see that seeing much play at least right now, unless they, like I said earlier, unless they start printing stuff that supports this archetype. No one's gonna play it. Basically, the only Mage deck I see is Spell Mage.
I think there is a Frost. There might be a Freeze Mage in Wild, but again, I don't think Blizzard tends to cater to Wild, so that's more of a coincidence than an intended design. This, speaking of Wild, this does remind me of Arcane Tyrant, where if you played a spell that costs 5 or more, it would be free. And it's also, I know actually it's a 4/4. So it's a 4/4 that is free when you play a big spell. Which, like, that is pretty good if you play a big spell deck, so I could see this be really good if you play a freeze deck. But someone would have to play a freeze deck in the first place to really make that work, so I don't really see it.
No.
Seed Cloud Buckler is the first Paladin card. It's a 3-mana 2/3 weapon with Death Rattle. Give your minions Divine Shield.
I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
It seems a bit odd to me, because having a Death Rattle that wants to buff your minions kind of really feels like, I guess you could time it, because you don't have to attack every turn, but if this was a battle cry, I would like it a lot more, is what I'm kind of getting at.
Yeah.
Because you have to play this,
I mean, the only thing...
3 turns later, you get the effect.
The only thing I could think of would be the one weapon already that's 2 mana that casts a Seeker from your deck. You can play that after to trigger it early. But it seems like a lot of work to get that triggered. I don't like it. I don't hate it, like I said, but
you're not going to play this and another weapon just to get the Divine Shield effect. That's just way too expensive. So it does seem a bit odd in that way. Judgment of Justice is a 1-mana Paladin secret with, when an enemy minion attacks, set its attack and health to 1.
I don't like it. Doesn't seem great.
Okay, I mean, this just seems more annoying to play against in certain ways. But otherwise, I guess the thing with secrets is always, if you get another secret in your class, even if it's one that you don't necessarily intend to run, it's always something to keep in mind at least. Because someone is gonna run it. Like, even if it's not very popular, someone is. And also, if you have anything that gives you random secrets, that just makes it even more where it's like, okay, it could be this, it could be...
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't seem great, but it seems okay against... I mean, it's like, I guess it's good against decks that make big minions, but also you want to be control?
I don't understand. Because then you could just go in with your weakest minion and trigger that like that. It's just, I don't know. It seems too slow and unpredictable. Maybe not even slow is the right word. Just unpredictable. You can't really choose how to go. Like, oh my Yogg obviously is random, but the randomness of that is much more beneficial than it is for something like Judgment of Justice, because then you really have to check the spell beforehand. So then you cast a 0 mana spell, like if you have the coin, and then you accidentally shadow step your minion, or you do something like that, or the Warlock spell that destroys a minion and summons a demon if you have 5 or more. You can really screw yourself up with the randomness of that. With this one, it's kind of like, oh no, my weakest minion on the board had to trade in, is now crap.
Yeah, especially since I think it's already the case that with this sort of thing, you would want to attack with the weakest minion anyways, if it's like something like Noble Sacrifice. So it's not like... it changes your strategy, right? Because this would be a lot more dangerous if you had one secret that incentivized you to attack with a big minion, and one secret that incentivized you to attack with a small minion, because then you don't know what to do. But because it already just reinforces your already existing play pattern, it doesn't really do that much. Party Up is... And then it also has...
I was going to say, it also has a negative interaction with Reckoning, too, because if you have both in play, you attack with... I'm curious how that would entail, because you figure if it's Judgment of Justice, it would trigger first when a 3-attack minion would go. So then it goes to 1 attack, 1 health, and then, you would probably rather just be destroyed at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that just keeps the judgment for the next time that something big attacks, but... Again, unless your opponent has like a huge board of like a bunch of big minions and no small ones, this doesn't seem that great. Party Up is where the Adventurers we just showed you come into play. It's a 7 mana spell which summons 5 2/2 Adventurers with random bonus effects. So you get 10/10 in stats and some keywords for 7 mana, which seems worthwhile if you have a deck that wants to do that.
It seems kind of slow for most Paladin decks right now, and the only Paladin decks that run high cost spells are Labrum decks, and they reduce them. If it were a Labrum, I feel like that would be absolutely busted.
Ooh, yeah.
But I'm glad it's not a Labrum, because God knows Paladin doesn't need any more help.
I mean, if they made a Labrum, that would have to make it a lot more expensive, I think. And even then...
12 mana.
No, I mean, this is the kind of thing that looks really good on paper, but you just don't know where it's supposed to fit in.
It's not bad, but it's just slow.
Yeah. Devout Dungeoneer, we've seen those before, is a 3-mana 2/3 with Battlecry, draw a spell. If it's a holy spell, reduces cost by 2, and now we're, of course, onto Priest. And most Priest spells are holy, I believe. Well, I mean, I guess there's Shadow spells as well.
A good chunk, yeah.
So I guess this is better from a synergy standpoint than the Mage one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the Dungeoneer, the Devout Dungeoneer, is definitely better than the first Dungeoneer we've looked at. I've already seen it see some play. I don't know if it's going to be, an auto-include in most Priest decks, but I've definitely seen it already played a couple times.
I mean, I guess I can see it if you have a Priest deck that already doesn't run any non-holy spells. It runs no unholy spells. Then you might as well include this, probably, because card draw is generally not that bad, and cost reduction isn't either, so... Because effectively, at that point, you're just paying 1 mana for a 2/3, kind of. You can't play it on 1 or anything, but... So that's really good. And it redraws, so it's... That would make it really good, but again, just in a deck that already has that restriction in place. You're not gonna change your deck to include this, probably. We have Against All Odds, which is a 5 mana holy spell, speaking of, that destroys all odd attack minions.
Yep. I like it. So Wave of Apathy comboed with Against All Odds is a great board clear already. On top of that, it's a solid card for, dealing with the board. A lot of times you're going to have odd attack minions on board. Although the one ironic thing about it is that it presents Priest with its biggest enemy as usual, which is 4 attack minions. There's nothing it can do against 4 attack minions outside of Soulmere. I mean, if you're playing Wild, sure.
Begin on standard.
I think it's a pretty good card. I like it so far. It's got the holy synergy, especially if you start comboing it with palm reading, where you reduce this cost of your spells. I mean, Wave of Apathy Against All Odds for 4 mana or even less, you could just get a really cheap board clear.
I do like palm reading. That's a cool card.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, it seems worse than Brawl, but also it's a different class, and there's different synergies that go into it, so as you said, like with Wave of
Oh.
Apathy. I guess Wave of Apathy against all odds is kind of like Whirlwind Plague of Wrath. So is it
Yeah.
Wrath? The one that destroys damage minions. So
Funny story about palm reading though. Before we go on, I played against a Celestial Alignment Druid one time as Miracle Priest, and he played Celestial Alignment, and I immediately played palm reading and made my whole hand cost 0, and he conceded after I played like 10 cards in a row that turn. It was fun.
I mean, yeah, that does definitely sound fun. There's the Cleric of Anshay. I don't know how to pronounce names. Which is a 1-mana 1/2 battle cry. If you restored health this turn, discover a spell from your deck.
I like it.
Yeah.
Priest always struggles with card draw, it seems like, so something more that it's not even just card draw, random card draw, it's you discover a spell, and it's only 1 mana, you've got your hero power, so you can pretty easily find a card that you can need in your deck if it comes to that situation.
Yeah. Didn't they also recently, as a matter of fact, I believe for the course that print a 2-mana spell that discovers a spell from your deck?
Yes. Can't remember what it's called, but I do know that card.
I just remember looking at that card and being like, why didn't you just reprint Shadow Visions? And then I was like, oh wait, Shadow Visions gives you a copy, that's why. So that's mostly why I remember that card, but this seems better. Like, even if you use Hero Power to activate it, it still comes with a 1/2 body, and then it costs 3, so... For Rogue, we have the Water Moccasin, which is a 3-mana 2... Moccasin, okay. Is that a real thing? Like...
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was not familiar with that particular animal. I mean, I guess it's a snake. But 3-mana 2/5 beast with stealth and has poisonous while you have no other minions. Which is interesting.
I mean, I don't think it's a bad card, but it's a similar problem with other decks. I don't see where it fits in right now. It's just because Rogue's not really playing aggro, and if they are, they're, I feel like, playing Weapon Rogue. It's just, Miracle Rogue seems to be the go-to deck, and I do not think anybody would include that in their Miracle Rogue deck.
Yeah, so I guess one thing that we should probably acknowledge is that sometimes Blizzard does make cards to have synergy with them in the future. So we are just at the start of the current year. This card is going to be around for like a year and 2/3. So actually, yeah, I mean, a year and this is 2 months into the expansion, so a year and 10 months. So
yeah,
maybe those ones that are like good in theory but don't fit into any decks will find their place in the future. But right now this is kind of weird. Shroud of Concealment is a 3-mana shadow spell for Rogue that draws 2 minions. Any of those minions played the same turn that you played Shroud of Concealment gain stealth for 1 turn. So until your next turn.
I think it's an okay card. I think it falls in line with what you were just saying with what I was going to touch on before we got to this card, which is they tend to sometimes print cards that are going to be archetypes for the future, like with the Freeze Mage. I think that's a direction they're going to be going in. With the Shroud of Concealment, they could be trying to make stealth aggro rogue a thing again, because that was a popular archetype recently. And with the Water Moccasin and the stealth drawing them, I think that could be the next archetype that they're aiming for.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, I was about to say stealth rogue in general, but of course it's rogue, so it's going to be aggressive. And second of all, I did that thing again where I say A in second. The minions, if you want to play them on the same turn that you drew them, can't be too big, so you kind of want them to be small minions. Speaking of stealth rogue, of course, there is the Savory Deviate Delight, which transforms a minion in both players' hands into a pirate or stealth minion.
I don't know what the hell to make of that, but I like it. I don't even think it's a good card, but I like the card. I think it's meme-worthy, which is something I like sometimes with my cards. Like fun memes, like Yogg.
Demonic Project was worth playing, wasn't it? So,
yeah, it was. Yes, but combo decks were way more prevalent back then, but I could still see it becoming a thing. Honestly, apparently it's a very popular WoW quest. I never really played WoW, but apparently that card is a huge reference to that.
Okay, I mean that's cool, I guess, for the people that played WoW.
Yeah.
I mean it's good that you call it out, but I wouldn't know what to do with that information.
Me either.
So the worst thing about this for me is that it's a pirate or stealth minion, because if it was one or the other, at least you could include this in a deck that wants to have that specific thing, and you're guaranteed to have synergy, because in this case, you can't guarantee that you have synergy if you're running a stealth rogue and you get a pirate that doesn't have stealth, which I don't think any pirates do, though that doesn't really matter right now.
Yes, sneaky delinquent.
Oh, that... Right! Mm-hmm. That is... Yeah, fair enough. Point being, you can't guarantee that you get a stealth minion if you play stealth rogue, which is a bit annoying, because you might not have your synergies, assuming that you have synergies in that deck, and then that's a bit weird, but otherwise it seems fine, especially... to disrupt. I
was going to say, the only thing I like is that, well, you said with the disrupt, the only thing I would see is that if it was just stealth minion, it would make sense with the whole stealth pattern that they have going on right now. The only thing I can think of is that they're going to start printing more pirates with stealth. Because that's the only thing that would make sense. Because if you're running an aggro stealth rogue that also has some pirates in it, then it would kind of be beneficial to you. That's my only thinking with
I guess
that working out.
I guess if you said, like, if you get a bunch of stealth pirates and then you get like stealth cap, that's still like decent because the pirates get better at least, or something. But and I guess like something like deckhand is always good. So I guess pirates aren't that bad. Pirates generally don't synergize with pirates as much as they do with weapons. So you're a rogue, you have a weapon always. So I guess there's definitely something there. Shaman gets a Dungeoneer as well. It's the Primal Dungeoneer, which is a 3-mana 2/3. Who would have guessed? With draw a spell, again, who would have guessed? If it's a nature spell, also draw an elemental.
I think it's a pretty good card. It's targeting the biggest weakness to Shaman right now, which is card draw. So it's definitely a step in the right direction, because Shaman's been basically, I wouldn't say unplayable, but the prevalence of Shaman and Ladder before this mini set was probably like 1% to 2% of players.
I mean, I like the idea, but you have to basically play no non-nature spells, and you have to play a reasonable amount of elementals to make this like really useful, because if you whiff on the elemental, it's not that great. And, I mean, that's for both of us what I just said. So, I mean, it's good. But then the next card is Perpetual Flame, which is a 1-mana fire spell for Shaman. With, with deal 3 damage to a random enemy minion. If it dies, recast this, overload 1.
Well, I mean, it's got overload, so it must be a good Shaman card, right? It's not overload 2, so I guess it's not a good enough card, but...
I mean, the thing with overload is it goes better with aggro than with control, and this is more of a control card.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird card.
In theory, it's a decent control card, specifically against aggro decks, but also that seems a bit specific, and I don't know how well it fits. And again, they print Nature Spell Synergy, and then in the same set print the only spell they print, I mean it's a mini set, but still, is a fire spell.
Consistency.
Wailing Vapor is a 1-mana 1/3 elemental. After you play an elemental, gain +1 attack.
Seems okay.
Seems pretty good for an elemental.
One drop. Yeah, especially if you play it on 1, immediately play another elemental on 2. Get going early on. I mean, I actually just net decked a elemental Shaman deck before hopping onto this call, so I'm curious to try it out later on to see how fares. But
yeah, I mean that's definitely an archetype that would interest me as well. It is worth noting that this does kind of look like a mana worm, in that it is a 1-mana 1/3 that buffs its attack on a condition. It's not as abusable as mana worm because you can't just play a million elementals in one turn. But elementals do like if you play an elemental every single turn, so it does work with that idea. They wouldn't have perchance included a Firefly into the core set, did they?
No, I don't think so.
I didn't think so either, but honestly, I don't know right now. The core set really threw me off in that I don't know I don't know all the cards right now that are in Classic. Well, in Core, where I did kind of know what was in Classic and Basic, so
yeah.
This is something that's throwing me for a bit of a curve. But let's... Oh boy, we've also been going for this for a while. I should probably not drag this out too much. Unstable Shadow Blast is a 2-mana shadow spell for Warlock that deals 6 damage to a minion. Access damage hits your hero.
Interesting. It's a shadow spell, so I guess it could, go into some control lock decks with Tamara. I think it's called Tamira.
I don't know actually.
It's a 3 mana. Every time you cast a shadow spell, put a copy in your hand that costs 0.
Right. Yeah. I vaguely remember the card, but I have no idea what it's called.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Warlocks like taking damage on their own turn, so I guess in some decks it might be optimal if you kill something with 5 health with this, but like also this seems very inconsistent is the thing.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I don't see it doing much right now.
Yeah, you don't want to use this when your opponent has like a 1 or 2 health minion, because that just seems excessive.
Yeah.
I don't like fireballing low health minions, but like now you're also taking more damage from it. That's I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Final Gasp, however, does look interesting, which deals 1 damage to a minion. If it dies, summon a 2/2 adventurer with a random bonus effect. It's also a shadow spell.
So basically Mortal Coil, but instead of drawing a card, it gives you an adventure. I mean, doesn't seem bad.
Because I
feel like Warlock tends to want to draw more, but also having a minion on board is for 1 mana seems decent.
I was about to say 1 mana 2/2 seems pretty decent with an extra keyword that might be useful. And on top of that, I mean, I know you can't guarantee that you get it it's written out on 1, so it's not as good as an actual 1 mana 2/2. But also you could probably pull this off somewhat consistently, and it does seem in theory better than drawing a card. I don't know if it's specifically for Warlock or specifically in the decks that you would put it in, but it does in theory seem better than drawing a card. Sealer of Souls is a 4 mana 2/6 demon. After you draw a card, change its cost to health instead of mana. Speaking about drawing cards and, taking damage.
I don't know how this card has fared in Standard. Seems like it'll be a decent card. I don't know how good. But apparently it's already broken Wild. Apparently Pain Zulok in Wild is absolutely broken right now because of that card. Like I said, I have no knowledge of it. I don't play Wild really ever, but apparently it has destroyed Wild in the short time that it's been out.
I mean, I could just think of the fact that I don't think this is good, but the fact that if you have a Voodoo Doctor, you pay 1 mana, 1 health to get a 2/1 that also heals you 2, which I don't think that's how people are using it. But then again, I do have to think back on the Happy Ghouls. And
yeah, that was Heal Lock. That was fun.
Yeah, I can't believe that. That's one of the craziest stories still to me, because like that was discovered like I think 2 or 3 months into the expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no major changes that made it possible. It's just that no one had thought of it before.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like with Ogremancer, with no one using Ogremancer for the longest time, but when it was released, now Ogremancer is in, I don't want to say half of all decks, but it's in pretty much every control deck right now, I feel like, or just about every control deck, because so many decks cast spells. It's a 3/7 that gives you 2/2 with Taunt every single time they cast a spell.
Yeah, I just find it fascinating
that one took months.
Something just gets completely overlooked for like a while, because that doesn't happen that much, especially because like there's like literally thousands of people trying out just about anything. So I mean, I guess it would have to be a good player stumbling upon it, because otherwise you wouldn't hear of it, but still that's still interesting. Man-at-Arms is a 2 mana 2/3 warrior minion. We're on to warrior, we're getting there, which has a battle cry: if you have a weapon equipped, gain +1/+1.
Mm-hmm.
That seems okay.
Seems okay. Doesn't really fit with current warrior archetypes with rush and control, but it seems like an okay card.
We've said this a lot today. Like, it doesn't fit with anything, but it's an okay card. Speaking of weapons, Whetstone Hatchet is a 1 mana 1/4 weapon for warrior, of course. After your hero attacks, give a minion your hand +1 attack.
I don't hate it, honestly, because they're going with the whole buffing thing with
conditioning.
What is that? Yep, thank you. Conditioning. There's also some other stuff that buffs like taunt minions.
There's also the one that buffs rush minions when you draw them.
Run back.
The
oh no, are you talking about okay, that one. There's also
Stage Dive.
Stage Dive. Then there's also Run Thack, which when you attack, it's Rush. Whenever it attacks, it gives your minions +1/+1 in your hand. And then there's the Rush minion that buffs when they attack on board, though. That one doesn't buff hand.
The mercenary one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hand buff is a thing, and honestly, a 1-mana 1/4 weapon. I mean, one attack on a weapon is a bit low, but it already seems to decent from the stats, and then you have the extra bonus effect. It seems actually pretty solid.
Yeah.
Especially because Rush is popular, so the attack is even more impactful because your minion is not going to die before it ever gets a chance to attack.
Yeah.
Crash, Lord of Turtling. Is turtling a word?
I believe so.
Really?
I
mean,
I'm not sure.
It makes sense from how it's constructed, but it just like that would imply that to turtle is a verb. So that's weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Apparently, it's a word.
Language is fun.
A gameplay strategy that emphasizes heavy defense with little or no offense.
Okay, that does make sense. Oh, so it's probably a WoW reference.
That could quite possibly be. I have not played WoW either. The only reason I knew that one fact I told you earlier was because I read it on Reddit.
I mean, that's what that site is for. Tanks are a thing, so I guess. 6-mana, 3/9 legendary beast with frenzy, gain 8 armor, death rattle, equip a 2/5 turtle spike.
I have no idea if this card's going to be good, but from the minute I saw it, I loved it, and I really hope it's good. I don't know why, but I love this card.
The first thing I thought,
it seems sick,
when I saw this card is just, this has a lot going on. Like, a frenzy for 8 armor, which is good, but also, like, I don't know how consistently you trigger that. I mean, I guess it has 9 health, so probably a lot. A death rattle that gives you a 2/5 weapon. Like, I don't know how to evaluate this card.
It's very weird, and I'm all for it.
It's a little bit of everything. Speaking of weird, we have the neutral cards, finally. Mutanus the Devourer is a 7-mana 4/4 Murloc with Battlecry. Eat a minion in your opponent's hand, gain its stats.
Yep. Another card that I love.
It's a cool card. It works for slower decks, but, like, I don't know why this is a Murloc. I mean, I guess because the card depicts a Murloc, but, like, this doesn't go with a Murloc deck.
No, it's definitely not a card that you include in any Murloc deck. I have had it played against me, I think, twice now. The one time, it killed my Rogue deck because it ate my Tenwu. And then the other time, it ate my Alexstrasza. It killed me that time. And then in a GM match today, it ate the opponent's Cthulhu. I read about it. I didn't see it, but I read that it ate their Cthulhu. Yeah. So it seems like a good card. It's like included in every control priest deck already, from what I've seen.
I mean, yeah, I guess if that is the thing, then combo disruption, as we said, like with the transforming cards, could also be somewhat decent, I guess. But this has the immediate impact that it also gets huge if it eats something impactful.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the card. I was just very confused when I saw that it was a Murloc. That was a 7-mana Murloc. That felt a bit odd. Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, the flavor's a little odd, but overall the card seems really good already.
I feel like I was gonna say something else about this, but I don't know right now. Oh right, yeah. This makes evolve stuff worse. But
yes, it does.
I guess it's just very, like, anything that wants to summon a random 7-drop is gonna be really happy when this shows up. But I guess that just happens.
The only thing I could think of that's a negative interaction as of now, besides evolve decks, is Plagued Proto-Drake. Because it's that 8-mana 8/8 dragon that when it dies summons a random 7-cost minion.
Ooh.
That affects its pool negatively. But that's about all I can think of.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, Evolve, Revolve, Devolve, they're all in Wild at this point, and Revolve? Is Revolve still around? Revolve is from recently. That should still be around. I don't think anyone's playing it, but it should be around.
No, it's not.
So I guess there's a possible positive/negative interaction depending on who has a 7-drop, but
Yeah.
that's like very specific. Archdruid Neralax, however, is a 3-mana 3/3, which is dormant for 2 turns, and while dormant, it adds a dream card to your hand at the end of your turn. That is the dream cards from Ysera that were recently also slightly changed.
Yes.
Which threw me off. Whenever I saw one of the dream cards be played, I was like, why did you not? And then it's like, oh, right, this is different than it used to be.
Yeah. No, I don't think they changed much. I think the only real changes were that the 5 damage is dealt to only minions outside of Ysera.
Oh, right, yeah, I think that was it, exactly. I think someone played Ysera, awakens, and I'm like, wait, should this be damaging heroes?
Yeah.
Because
And then I think Nightmare used to do 5/5, right?
And now
Am I wrong? Did Nightmare used to be 5? Yeah.
That sounds about right.
I think those are the only changes, though, if that one's even changed.
I don't know.
Card seems okay. I mean, I've seen it included in some decks currently that I haven't tried out, but it's definitely more of a... I don't think you slam that on 3 unless you have nothing to worry about, because it's literally just 3 mana, do nothing for, at least a turn, and then you could just get a crappy dream card. So, I don't know. It seems okay.
I mean, this is one of those cards that just can provide a lot of good value, because most of the dream cards are really good. As I think all of them are.
Yeah.
Is Dream still around, actually? Did they remove Dream?
Yes,
Did they change Dream? It's still the same as it was?
1 mana, but it's enemy minion only.
Oh, right.
I don't know if it used to be...
I think it might have been either 0 mana or both sides or both of those things. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But I mean, I guess they're all fine. So in that in that regard, it's good. Of course, it's interesting that they changed Ysera. Well, they made a new Ysera that specifically gives you all the cards to be more consistent, and now they're giving you a card that gives them to you at the end of the turn, like Ysera used to. But
yeah, I mean, it's like a better Argus. That's about it.
Yeah.
Argus was, I think, 5 mana or something like that, 4 or 5, and was a death rattle. This one is 2 turns and you get, that.
Devouring Ectoplasm is a 3-mana 3/2 with a death rattle. Summon a 2/2 adventurer with a random bonus effect. Eh.
Eh.
I mean, I guess there's death rattle synergies, so that might make it somewhat decent, but otherwise, it kind of reminds you of Harvest Golem.
Yeah, there's so many death rattles already in Demon Hunter that I don't think you really want to run that. I mean, seems like I'm gonna go with the classic line of it seems like it might be a good arena card and go from there.
It is probably a decent arena card, yeah. There's also Selfless Sidekick, which is a 7-mana 6/6. Spellcry, equip a random weapon from your deck.
I was waiting to get to this one, actually. I haven't tried it yet, but that card has already made Evolved Shaman a popular deck again.
Oh, right! Bogspine.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was waiting to touch on this because I know we were talking about evolving things.
Yeah.
This card, that's the only weapon you really run in Evolved Shaman, so that's an instant get.
I was about to say, what is the best thing we can get with this? Because I haven't seen it yet, but Bogspine is good, yeah. I mean, I guess you would generally prefer to get your Bogspine out earlier, but that's about the one complaint I have.
Yeah.
But I guess you at least guarantee you have at least a 7-drop out, and then with Bogspine it gets evolved. So I guess you're at least not going to have an empty board when you play your Bogspine, which is always the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah. Maybe good in Warrior too. I doubt it because it seems kind of slow, and there's better stuff you would want to do at that point. Plus, you already have Corsair Cache, but I don't know.
Because that's the thing I was thinking at first. When I first started, I was like, "Oh god, 7 mana!" Like most weapons that are cheap, you just probably want to equip earlier, anyways. But yeah, a Bogspine is a good point. Because I was just thinking, like, what were like big weapons, right? You need big weapons for this.
I think it's more of like it's not something you would want to tutor out your first Bogspine, but like later in the game, when you can't find your second one, you have that, and you already have a 7-mana minion on board when you play that. So then you get an 8-mana minion right off the bat from the Bogspine. Yeah, it seems okay.
It is worth noting that you have already drawn a decent amount of cards at that point, and you definitely don't want to draw both of your Bogspines before you play this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that it's still very solid. And finally, last but not least, I mean, I guess you could play with Gorehull before I actually go to the last card.
Yeah.
Just give
I guess
a 7
that
mana
could be a
weapon
thing.
for
Why not?
7
Casual.
mana.
Casual 7 attack weapon equipped randomly.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't run it in a deck with just Gorehull because you could have drawn Gorehull first, but yeah. Meeting Stone is a 1 mana 0/2. At the end of your turn, add a 2/2 adventurer with a random bonus effect to your hand.
Decent arena card.
It's a verse version of Evil Totem.
I mean, I don't see anybody including that in decks right now. It doesn't seem like it fits with most of the archetypes.
And as I mentioned, Evil Totem, I literally thought, like, when I saw this card, I thought, like, if this at least was a totem...
Oh yeah, it's not even a totem.
Get something going with it, but like, this feels like a totem. This feels like it should be a totem. Why is it not a totem?
But it's a stone.
I mean, yeah, I get from like the actual
I know.
Like, as a meeting stone, I get that it's not a totem, but like, you could have just called it something else.
Yeah, I agree.
Totem of Adventure. Adventuring Totem. I don't know that.
Yeah,
we'll workshop it. But that brings us. Unless you wanted to say anything else about the cards, because we've been at this for like almost an hour already, which is longer than I expected to take with this. And then again, I bad at planning. Brings us to Facts of the Week. And as the guest, you get to go first. What is your Fact of the Week?
Alright, so my Fact of the Week is that Monty Python and the Holy Grail was funded largely by various bands, including Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and Elton John, because the company that they worked under at the time was very... I don't want to say like in the middle of all of what they wanted to do, but they wanted a larger say in what they were trying to do with their movies than the Monty Python group wanted. So they wound up getting a bunch of these bands to help support them because the bands thought it would be a decent tax write-off, and the movie exploded.
Oh god, I love that. I love the tax write-off part. I mean, of course, like a lot of bands that I've definitely heard of, and I think all of the bands that you mentioned I like as well. So, but the part about the tax write-off is what gets it for me. Yeah, like we financed this movie because it looks good on a tax report. Like okay,
pretty much.
Sure. So yeah, that is something. My Fact of the Week pertains to Hearthstone, because I wasn't going to use this when Sergey is the co-host, because he wouldn't understand it. So, did you know that in Classic mode, mechs are a tribe?
But they're not in otherwise?
Well, they are, but so...
Oh.
They
I get it. Okay.
were first introduced with Goblins v Gnomes. So, if Classic mode represents Hearthstone Classic before any patches, they shouldn't be mechs. Now, I get why they kept them as mechs, right? Because there's no mech synergy anyways, so it doesn't change anything, and it's more consistent between game modes. Yeah. If that is the case, however, I wonder, there are no spell schools, and there's also no elementals. But, like, Water Elemental is in there, Lightspawn is in there. Why are mechs a tribe, but elementals are not?
That's honestly a good question. Goes back to the good old Hearthstone consistency from card to card. Makes no sense.
Like, if you made it everything to be the way there was in the original patch, like you removed all of the new tribes, fine, whatever. If you kept all the tribes to have a bit more aesthetic consistency, fine, whatever. But just keeping one and not the other just seemed strange to me.
Yeah, it seems like they're picking and choosing what they're going with consistency for. Yeah, I never actually noticed that. That's actually pretty interesting.
Like, I randomly was on their website, on the card listings. I checked out Classic mode, I just briefly tried to scroll through it for some reason, and I noticed that the mechs were listed as mechs, and I'm like, what? I looked at Water Elemental and it didn't have Elemental, and I'm like, what? So then I actually double checked it in the game, and it's the same in the game. I guess, so the only explanation I have is that someone on the design team forgot that mech was not one of the original tribes.
Maybe most of the team was going by that point, so no one was there to remind them.
Because elementals...
Okay, guys, this was not a thing in Classic.
Yeah, elementals were introduced in Angoro, and they are not in Classic, but mechs were introduced in GVG, and they are in. So I don't get it.
I don't know.
that brings us to the halftime show, and we're going to keep this one a bit briefer than I initially intended because, again, we've been going for a while, and we're back, and this is the halftime show. And today we're playing Would You Rather because I thought it was an interesting, fun thing to do. I guess we'll do like 3 questions because normally we do more, but we've been going for a while and I don't want to get this too long. And let's just go through really fast. Would you rather be a rock star or be a movie star?
Probably movie star.
I'm gonna say rock star. Wait, actually, no, I gotta be movie star actually because I feel like as a rock star you do have to do a lot of traveling.
Yeah, that's my only concerns. Like the tour bus lifestyle does not seem like the most fun, and the sleeping pattern also seems crap.
That's exactly what I thought. So, by the way, you can iterate on your reasoning. That's kind of why we do this, to explain why we made this choice as well. But yeah, because I figured that movie star, like, I don't want to constantly be on the go. And, like, movie star, you basically... Well, I guess movie star, you move to Hollywood, and that's basically it. If you're in TV, you basically move to Vancouver, and you're good. So, you know. I mean, there's some traveling and filming on set, but, like... filming on location, but, like... It's comparatively minimal, I would argue. Would you rather have nipples that constantly change colors like a disco light? Or have nipples that look like diamonds? Oh god. I love how different these questions are.
Disco light 100%.
So I'm gonna say diamonds, but that's interesting. Because I feel like you would want to... I feel like you'd want to have something that, at the very least, is consistent. I mean, I guess color, like a disco light, means that there's not necessarily light there, because that would definitely be very distracting. But I would still want it to be somewhat consistent, at least. And I guess...
I just think it would be funny.
I mean, certainly. I mean, I guess it looks like diamonds would mean they would be see-through, which is kind of weird, because then you see, like, the flesh underneath, which is also a bit odd.
Yeah.
I don't have a strong preference, anyways. With these sort of things, it's harder to have a strong preference, I feel like. With the ones that are more realistic, it's like, you can actually... I mean, not that it would be necessarily realistic for me to be a movie star or rock star, but those exist. I have a frame of reference for those. Would you rather... What's called anyways? Would you rather emit robot noises whenever you move, or make camera shutter sounds whenever you blink?
My initial thought was the camera shutter sounds.
Yes, mine as well.
I don't know. It depends on how loud it is. If it's like obnoxiously loud every single time, then no. But if it's like a mild sound, I probably wouldn't care and be used to it after the first day or two.
I mean, I guess with both of those, it's also like... I mean, I guess blinking is relatively well-defined. Whenever you move, does include blinking, in my opinion. So that's already...
Yeah.
Unless you mean like literally walk or something, but like every movement... Like, I guess your joints would all sound like servos or something. Like,
yeah.
I think I have to go with shutter sounds whenever you blink. Because I think that's just a more fun sound. And B,
I agree.
It seems like that's less present, right? So it's not like it's ever present. Like, every time you like adjust your positioning, it's like... And it seems like a more fun thing to do on command, where it's like... You just blink intentionally. Especially, I guess, to make people think there's a camera going off. I don't know. So yeah, I normally would do more, but I think we move on to the second topic. I don't want to have to render like a 3-hour long episode. It takes forever.
Understandable.
Which brings us to our second topic, and this is not as well defined as some of our other stuff, but we wanted to talk about video games, and more specifically, I guess, what pimpkarp specifically has been playing recently, but I'm going to definitely pitch in as well a bit.
So, I've been playing a couple things recently. Like usual, I pick up too many games that I'm playing at the same time.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
Yeah. I got, Oh, sorry, go on.
It's that whole cliche with, like, there was a comic I saw on the internet which was really funny. It was like someone sitting in a game store and they're like looking at all the games like, oh, I wonder what game I should play, what game I should buy to play. And then someone goes like, you should probably just play any one of the hundreds of games that you have bought but never played. It's like,
Yep.
Shut up!
Nah, no.
Like,
Gotta buy a new one.
I think I literally have more games on Steam that I've never played than ones that I have played.
Oh yeah,
So
100%.
That's a bit worrying.
Well, just bundles, mostly bundles. Got to think about it like that.
Yeah, but also I tend to not redeem the ones in bundles that I don't think I'm gonna be interested in playing because I'm like maybe I'll give the code away to someone else or something. But
yeah,
but yeah, like even though I do only somewhat selectively do those, I still end up with way more games than I actually end up playing. And I've mentioned this to you before as well. My 6 most played games on Steam are all free to play.
Yep.
Which
that is pretty impressive, honestly.
Buying games even more worthwhile. I mean, part of that is that I think 3 of those are idle games, so whether I count those or not. And I did technically invest 20 cents into TF2, though it is technically free to play game.
I won't say how much I spent in League of Legends, which is also free to play. But,
I mean, for Team Fortress, it was literally like, if you buy anything in the game, you get the premium version. And the cheapest thing you could buy was 20 cents. And if you have the premium
that
version,
makes sense, then.
You have 6 pages of inventory space rather than just 1. And you also get better drops. So it's like, yeah, I'm gonna pay 20 cents to play TF2.
Yeah, it makes way more sense. I never really got into TF2, so I don't really know how it works, but
I mean,
that makes a lot of sense.
That was a while ago, but yeah, I used to play TF2 with my friends a lot. So that's definitely one thing. And yeah, I have, I'm going to just pull this up really quickly because I want to see this now. I have 306 hours in TF2. So I think that was a worthwhile investment, these 20 cents that I paid.
Yeah, I would say so. Good.
I made profit on that because you can also sell some of the items you can get in the game. So I might have actually literally made profit selling stuff to other players.
Good return on investment then.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so basically I've been playing a few recently. I got Nier Replicant when that came out because I didn't realize it was actually a remake of a game called Nier. Was it just called Nier? I think it was just called Nier when it was released in Americas. And they remade it with the original protagonist, which was I think only in Japan. The only difference being that instead of the Nier Replicant having the brother trying to cure his sister, the original version had a father trying to cure his daughter because they thought the Western audience would lean more towards a father trying to cure his daughter, which they did. Apparently, most people actually prefer that protagonist. That's a really weird game. It's a prequel to Nier Automata.
Yes, that I have heard of.
Yeah. So it's a prequel to that game, and I've put about 25 hours into that, and I only have gotten the first of 5 endings, and that you kind of need to get at least 4 of them, I think, to get the full story, because Yoko Taro makes really weird games that you have to... It does change as you play it, each subsequent ending, so it's not like you have to replay the entire game every time.
Okay.
It's very weird, but it's a really, really cool game. The soundtrack's beautiful. Deals with a lot of philosophical concepts. Then I got Resident Evil Village, which was awesome, very intense. And now, more recently, I have been playing a game called Griftlands, which I know you sounded interested in.
Yeah.
It feels like anybody that likes any deck builder games would probably like it. So essentially, it's a roguelite RPG deck builder where you start off as like a mercenary of sorts doing odd jobs for people, and I'm not sure what the whole goal of the game is so far. I really didn't look much into it before buying it. I've only played about an hour or so, but it's really cool because unlike Slay the Spire, where it's battle after battle, you can actually negotiate your way out of confrontations. So you have 2 different decks, one with negotiating cards, one with battling cards. And it's a really, really cool concept, and I'm really enjoying it so far, just the different interactions with players, how I died once already, and it's already changed a good amount from where I restarted the game. I don't know, I really like it, especially at the price point, which is only like 16 US.
Yeah, it was something around that. So yeah, I definitely, when I looked at it, it did remind me of Slay the Spire, and it sounds, from what you've said and what I've seen on the Steam store page, like just looking at it briefly, like it's just a slightly more extensive version of Slay the Spire, in a way, and I love the art style. I find the setting looks interesting. I think it's like a sci-fi type thing from what I saw.
Sort of, yeah.
There looked like there was some technology going on there. So, the setting looks interesting. The art style's really cool. And the mechanics from just... Listen, right? You said roguelite, RPG, deck builder, and I was all sold. Like, you didn't need to say anything more.
See, one of my favorite things about it is there's 3 different characters that you can unlock. So I'm assuming that the game plays out differently depending on the characters. You only start out with the one. But not only that, every character you interact with will have not a morality meter, but like a like meter. So certain characters can like and love you, certain characters can dislike or hate you, and characters will hold grudges against you, that kind of thing. So the choices you make in regards to quests will have later implications regarding certain characters, which I think is a really cool concept in a deck builder game. So it has a lot more variability in subsequent playthroughs, I feel.
Yeah, that sounds like more RPG-like, as you said, where NPCs have like ways they react to you, and then if you do something for them, they might like you more and stuff like that. Yeah, I really like deck builder games. I feel like roguelike is a natural format for a deck builder. Like Hand of Fate does it, Slay the Spire does it. I really like those sort of games. So that definitely sounds interesting, and I haven't heard of it before. So that's definitely a recommendation for the people out there, because I don't know if I am not that keeping up with gaming news, but it doesn't sound like this is like a major game. It sounds like it's just kind of like one of those more.
I think the publisher is the same publisher that did Don't Starve, Klei, 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 whatever it's pronounced.
Okay. Yeah, I have heard of Don't Starve.
They're not a huge company.
I've heard of Don't Starve. I have a friend who's really into it, or was really into it back when it came out at least. But I never really got that into it. That didn't interest me too much, but this looks cool. Anything else you're playing right now that you wanted to mention?
I got the Mass Effect remake because I really wanted to play 2 and 3 again. I never played 1. My roommate back when I was in a different college convinced me to try 2 because 3 was coming out soon after, and I'm dating myself here a little bit because this is back in 2011. And so he convinced me to try it, and then I was like, "Oh, this is a really cool game. Why don't I try 1?" He's like, once you play 2, you can't go back to 1. It's terrible. It's like the story's cool, but the actual combat, the interface, all the quality of life changes are apparently they're awful in 1. So I wanted to play 1, and it's definitely still a little clunky, but it's still really cool so far. I'm really excited to play through the series again because it's got all the DLC too with the whole bundle remaster.
Yeah, I definitely know that effect where it's like I don't know about that game specifically, but I know that when I played Borderlands 2 was a game that I really liked, and when I played Borderlands 1, it's like, oh, this is not the same. It's not as rough. Colorful, first of all, which gives you a different vibe, but also, more importantly, it didn't have a mini-map, which the enhanced version that is now out does, which I was really happy about. That was actually the biggest thing for me, that it didn't have a mini-map. And then, there's very little audio as in characters speaking. Like, in Borderlands 2, there's constantly characters talking to you while you're doing the quests, and they're telling you what you have to do. And in Borderlands 1, you have to actually read the quest descriptions, while the character is just, standing there, and, there's, a bit of music going on, maybe, and then it feels a lot less alive. And I never really liked the games that make you do the little radar thing, where it's there's, if you turn towards the quest, this quest icon, and, you can see if it's, to your right, to your left, but then you have to go, around a bend or something, you have to open up the map, you have to see where you have to go, it's ugh. So yeah, I never actually got around to finishing Borderlands 1 until they remade it with a mini-map, and then I finished it, and I liked the game, but, it's not the same.
Yeah, I actually never played, I've played 1, 2, and 3, and I've never beaten any of them. I think the closest I've gotten was 2. I put probably 40 or so hours into that one. 1, I put probably 30. And then 3, I burn out. I didn't like 3.
I never played 3, actually. I don't actually own 3, which is interesting.
So, I was just going to say, 3 is fun. The actual combat for the game is fun, but the story is... I hated the story with a passion. It's so cringy. It's basically Twitch streamer YouTubers that are the villains, and they're all about, it's just... I don't know. I hated the whole story for that game.
I've seen the trailers. I've seen some gameplay. And, to be fair, it set itself up for a very hard task, right? You can't really top Handsome Jack.
No.
It's like one of the best video game antagonists of all time. So they definitely did not have a great position after Borderlands 2.
Yeah.
I finished Borderlands. I finished Borderlands 2. I finished all the DLCs for Borderlands 2. And I think I finished the pre-sequel as well. I never played 3, so...
Yeah.
I think Borderlands 2 was one of my... Yeah, Borderlands 2 is the game that I have the second most time in out of the ones that are not free-to-play.
Okay, well, I have to look at mine now, because I don't even know what my second most played... I know what my most played game is, and it's by a long shot. Let's check here.
So,
Sort by
Borderlands
average.
2, I have 169 hours, and in Slay the Spire, I believe I mentioned this to you before we started, I have 233.
Jesus. How do you sort by hours on Steam again?
If you go to your profile and you go to games, I think it's by default, but it is at the top,
yes.
there's sort by playtime.
Yes, yep. Alright, let's see.
Oh, right, you were on your library. Yeah, you go to your profile.
Yeah,
I think you can do it in the library as well, actually. In the new... When they changed the launcher, if you're on the library main page, it also does allow you to find my games to sort by hours played, alphabetical, friends playing, percent of achievements completed, whatnot. But I usually do it through profile.
Yeah. Okay, so my 6 most played games. GTA 5, 52 hours. Mass Effect 2, 67 hours. Yakuza Like a Dragon, 78, but I did leave that idle for probably 10 or at least of those hours. Fall Guys, 112 hours. Skyrim, 182, base game, not even the DLC. I put like 160 hours in a month into that game. I was obsessed. Yeah, when I got it the night it came out, I couldn't even play it for about a week because I was new to PC gaming. I was on a laptop with an onboard graphics card and it was an Alienware, so I had an actual graphics card. I didn't know about whitelisting, and so it's not working for a week because it's just so sluggish and choppy.
Oh, yeah.
My roommate's like, "Oh, hey, did you try whitelisting your graphics card?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know what the fuck that means." I
had the same problem actually.
Then it worked beautifully.
I had a laptop with a graphics card as well, before I had my current computer, and I also didn't know about the graphics card at all, and so it was also running on integrated graphics, and I'm like, oh god, this is not that great. I don't know why. Like, this laptop looked really good, but this is not good. And then like a friend also told me, like, that was back in like middle school, high school, sort of, and as a friend was like, oh yeah, you want to probably set your computer to actually use your actual graphics card. And it's like, oh yeah, that helped a lot. And I did actually play Skyrim on that computer as well, and I have a total of 9.6 hours in that game on Steam. So, you know.
That's a good game. It's still not even close to my most played game, though. The jump... I wish Hearthstone kept track, because I know Hearthstone would be my most played game. But my jump from Skyrim to my most played game, which is Rocket League, it's 641 hours.
Wow.
So...
at first I was shocked because I thought you were reading top to bottom, and I was like, oh god, his most played game is 50 hours, what am I doing with my life? But
No. Yeah,
this is better.
I used to play Rocket League a lot. I was never amazing, but like I'm about a platinum level player in the game still. I mean, and it's just a very fun game. 3
of my top 5 most played games are idle games, so I don't really count those, because the fact that I have 2,004 hours in Clicker Heroes doesn't really tell you anything, except that I had Clicker Heroes running for a long time. I mean, that in and of itself is kind of sad, but at least I didn't sit in front of the game for 2,000 hours, so that's...
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
Then we have in second place, we have Gems of War with 1,485 hours, and what I definitely know that I sometimes had that game on, and I like tapped over to my browser and I forgot that I had it on. I guess most of that is actual playtime, so, you know. Then again, I have been playing... Can I see when I first played the game? Is that a thing I can do? Boy, I want to see now.
Oh, sure.
Last played yesterday. Okay, yes, that doesn't really... I guess I can look in the achievements. That probably tells me, like, there's probably like a tutorial achievement or something. Reach level 10.
Yeah.
August 5th, 2015. So I've been playing this game for close to 6 years now. So I guess the 1,500 hours are somewhat more justifiable.
I don't know if this makes it better or worse, but I stopped playing Rocket League for probably at least a year and a half, 2 years. So there's a couple of years where I straight up just never even touched the game, because primarily I would just play with my one friend, and we both kind of got out of it at the same time.
Yeah.
Let's see. When did I start playing that game?
I mean, that's what happened for me with Team Fortress 2, which I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I mentioned Borderlands and Slay the Spire. Team Fortress 2, I have 306 hours, which I played almost exclusively with friends. And once my friends stopped playing, I also stopped playing, and I haven't really touched that game in years either. I mean, I have touched it once or twice, but I've never really... Like, you play around and you're like, okay, this is actually not that interesting. But if you're hanging out with friends and you're just having fun, you're just goofing off, like, you can play this game for hours.
Yeah, so mine is August... Looks like August 20th, 2015 was when I first started playing this game.
Okay. Actually, let me see, Actually, wait, you have stats in Team Fortress 2, so I might actually be able to see an exact... Does it? No, it's just like how many points we watched last. So, let's see. My achievements... oh god. Yes, general achievements? Is there anything in Team Fortress that... play a complete round with every class I got in 2013. April 25th. Oh no, but I got another achievement in 2012, in August of 2012. Like, Team Fortress, I started playing apparently 9 years ago. Which is kind of crazy.
A long time ago.
I mean, I also probably haven't touched it in like 5 years or so, but... I mean, to be fair, my Steam account was created on June 27th, 2012. So actually, wow, that is...
Wait. Check mine.
So, that actually means that I started playing Team Fortress pretty much as soon as I made that account, which is not that surprising.
Wait, where do you see when your account was created?
In the badges, there's a badge that is called User Service, and if you hover over it, the tweet actually tells you the exact date.
Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. May 14th, 2010.
Wow.
Jesus Christ. Oh, man. I'm old.
Yeah, I mean... I guess I started... Yeah, I started playing on Steam in 2012. That would have been 2 days after I turned 14. I wonder what the official age is that you can officially sign up to Steam.
Like 13, I would imagine. Because
I just know that like some social media sites have rules where it's like you have to be like 16 or 18 or something. Yeah. And it's like, no one actually cares, but like in theory, you probably wouldn't want to incriminate yourself. Then again, you can't really deny that it's nice to account.
I was 16? Yeah, 16. 15. No, 16, when I made my Steam account.
Yeah, like, math is... Like, I was, like, also doing the thing where it's like, okay, 2012. At some point that year was 14. Was it before or after my birthday? Do some quick math. Yeah. Huh. So yeah, that is our gaming stories. I feel like we are starting to drift a bit far away from what we're talking about, unless you have anything to add.
I don't think so.
Which, I guess, brings us towards the end of the episode, which means it is time to end this episode on a high note with the Song of the Week.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, we've made that pun for the last 4 years, so... Yeah. Not every
good.
week, but...
I mean, I dig it. I like puns. My wife specifically loves really corny puns, so anytime I can get her something that's, very, very just dumb, she'll usually get a kick out of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what I am like as well. I like bad puns.
Yeah, they're good. My grandpa loved them too, honestly. He would have the worst ones, though. Like, just god-awful, not even funny puns, and I would just be like, no. But he chuckled at them, that's all that mattered.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's always the most important thing, right? If you're making a joke, it doesn't really matter how funny it is. If someone's laughing, you did a good job.
Yeah.
How else are you going to judge something like that? I mean, I guess if you just make yourself laugh, it's probably a bit weird in a social setting, but, there are worse things. So, all that is to say, what is your song of the week?
Okay, so, a song called Lemon Drop by Beach House. It's a dream pop group which started to trend more towards shoegazy elements in their most recent album. I don't know if you're familiar with any of that.
I've heard of pop and I've heard of albums, so
Okay. So I guess I'll give a brief synopsis real quick because it's not a super well-known genre. Shoegaze is an offshoot of rock that tends to be more ambient and kind of wall of noisy, where they'll have layer of like guitars building on each other, keyboards, synthesizers, that kind of stuff, where it'll usually start off not necessarily quieter, but it'll tend to build up as the song goes on. It got the name shoegaze because during concerts, the guitarist would have to stare at the pedals on the floor so much that a lot of people are like, well, they're just looking at the ground the whole time, gazing at their shoes. Hence the name of the genre. But it's a very complicated genre or style of music because of how much they have to keep editing the pedals, how much they have to keep layering the different instruments. Dream pop is a offshoot of that is a bit milder. If I had to guess, it's still very atmospheric. It tends to be a bit, of like that building up of different sounds. Beach House being one of my favorite bands of all time now, where they have a very nice sound, very atmospheric, very relaxing in some ways, but also some of their songs tend to be a bit more abrasive with the sound. It's kind of one of those genres that's hard to describe until you've listened to it a bit because of how different it is than a lot of other genres out there. But that's honestly once concerts start becoming a thing again with COVID. I'm very excited to see them
now with COVID. So that's.
I mean, I was curious about that. Was one thing I was going to ask how it is in where you are, because with us, things are basically like, oh, you don't even have to wear a mask if you're not vaccinated anymore, depending on if the store allows it. But I don't know how it is over there.
So we're starting to get more or less back to normal. Our numbers have been going down a lot recently, as vaccinations have finally started becoming a thing. Like vaccination, I mean, it's not like it took that long, but it feels still very poorly organized in some aspects, and it does feel like it's rolling out a bit slower than over there, maybe. But it's overall been getting better. Our customers are down, and they're starting to reopen a lot of things. I think mask mandates are still there, but otherwise, it's more or less going back to normal somewhat. I mean, we're not like having huge concerts or anything, but it does seem like it's going in the right direction. I've finally got my first shot like a week or two ago, so
Pfizer or Moderna?
Actually, AstraZeneca.
Oh, okay. I wasn't. Yeah, I got Johnson and Johnson, so I'm one of the people that are kind of outsiders in terms of that because I only get it's the one and done one.
Yeah.
Which you can't even get right now.
Yeah, I think they do. I'm still not sure if that they've even. I think we have that in Germany as well now, but they for a long time they didn't have it because just because it's allowed to be used in the US because the FDA approved it doesn't mean that it's approved in Europe. So they had to the approval took way longer. But yeah, we have mostly I think AstraZeneca and BioNTech, Pfizer in Germany right now, and because a lot of people want the BioNTech specifically. Because the AstraZeneca tends to be a bit aggressive when you first take the first shot, you get like fevers and stuff, and I mean it wasn't very pleasant. I had a fever for like an entire day, basically like a relatively heavy one, headaches and everything. But like it gets better, and also like I would have had to wait even longer if I wanted to get a BioNTech shot, so I just got the AstraZeneca one. I was like, whatever. Like I'll live.
The main reason I got Johnson was because my work actually didn't supply us, but if you worked with my company, you basically were able to go to any stores that had it, you schedule an appointment and go and get it for free. And then we got paid $100 if we got vaccinated.
Oh,
so
cool.
they were like actually promoting that. But I had a lot of fatigue the day after. And then I got it in my left arm. My left arm was sore a couple days after the fact.
Yeah.
But otherwise, nothing really major.
Yeah, I also like my arm also like actually for like about a week it felt a bit like sore. Like it wasn't like a major thing. It's like you got hit or something and it's like but like overall it was fine. I did feel like absolute shit the day I got the vaccine. That's actually the reason why the podcast that week was delayed a little bit because
Mm.
I happened to plan the recording to be the exact same night as I got like the day, like early in the day of the vaccine, and that was not a good idea.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't considered.
Well, my wife tried to work the day after she got it, and our store manager tried to plan a day off after getting the shot because most people had not a bad reaction, but a lot of fatigue, a lot of just not wanting to work kind of feeling. So she went to work, and like 2 hours into her shift, she's just like, I feel like crap, and I'm like, just go home. They're not gonna blame you. I had to convince her. Eventually, she wound up leaving, but yeah.
I mean, I kind of understand where that's coming from, though, because, I mean, not to, like, go into that whole thing, but, like, sick days in the US, like, don't necessarily agree that well, so,
Yeah. Right.
I kind of get where that's coming from. Like, in Germany, if you get, like, a doctor's note, like, oh, yeah, like, he's sick, then, like, you just don't go to work. And that, like...
You would think that's how it works, but...
Like, we don't have a limited number of sick days, and, like, it's basically, I think it's like that insurance pays your actual like pay rather than the company, but otherwise like you just don't go to work if you're sick. Like that's how that works.
Yeah, unfortunately over here it's kind of like not so much you have to go to work, but they're gonna not be happy if you're like, oh, I have a cold, I can't come in. They're gonna be like, what are you, a little bitch? Just come to work. Who cares if anybody else gets sick?
I mean, it's generally frowned upon to do something for like literally a cold, but like, yeah, generally like if you're actually sick.
That's what I meant. Like, if it's something actually bad, like a cold, I was being facetious a little bit, but if you have the flu, for instance, I wound up working on New Year's Eve with 101 fever. So yeah, I wore thermals. I work in produce too. So thermals are like
no. 1 second. 101 F in C. Let's do a little bit. Okay, that is not that bad, but it is definitely serious fever. Yeah.
Basically anything over 100 is considered a decent fever, and I had the shivers. I had to wear thermals so that I could stay warm. I wound up leaving after 3 hours, and then I worked the next day too because I was trying to not lose my holiday pay. And I even told them, I was like, hey, I am sick, and they're like, okay, well, just try not to leave early without telling anybody. And I told my manager, but the store director was just
by the way,
weird about it.
For the viewers wondering, it's 38.3 degrees Celsius. I just looked it up. I realized I looked it up and didn't like mention it, and we might have people watching that don't know Fahrenheit that well, so it's always like temperatures is always the one thing that trips me up. Like, I can do feet. Actually, I think actually distance is like the only thing I can really do, like feet and inches. Like I know that, but miles. But like once you start getting into like volume and temperature and stuff, the imperial system is whack.
It's stupid, and we're one of only 3 countries. I admit 100% as an American that the fact that we still use Imperial is genuinely stupid. There's 3 countries that use it, and none of them are great outside of America, which, depending on how you feel, isn't a great country, but whatever. I'm talking about like first world countries. America has a lot of flaws, but like one of the main ones is that we still, for some reason, use Imperial because it's hard for Americans to actually do the easier math.
Yeah, that's what like whenever Americans are like, I don't get metric, it's like they're all powers of 10. Like the conversion between different metric units is easy.
It's that argument is completely stupid to me, and I get it's because they're used to one way and then they have to think about it a different way. But I've never understood that argument. I'll be honest.
12 inches in a foot, 3 feet in a yard. Why do you have separate units for that?
Like, and then there's miles. How many feet are in a mile? And none of it makes sense. It's like, yeah. I was about to say, I know it's like 5,000 something. I don't even remember what it is at this point because you don't use it. Okay. It's stupid.
Here's why I know this, right? Because someone once posted on the internet, it's really easy. I just remember 5 tomatoes. It's 5280. And since then, I know how many feet in a mile. And then someone else commented, for kilometers, I just remember 1,000. because the metric system was not invented by a drunk mathematician rolling dice. And, that was that. But now I know that's 5280, so I can actually remember that.
That's actually pretty good.
But yeah, I mean, there's 1,000 meters in a kilometer. if you have something crazy like a kilogram, there's 1,000 grams, because our prefixes are consistent. If you have a kilobyte, then that is 1,024 bytes, because programmers love powers of 2. But, like, still.
Yeah. It makes no sense.
That was a tangent.
I like how this all devolved from us talking about concerts and all that.
Concert logically leads to the metric system. I mean, I don't see how that doesn't connect. I was gonna at some point make a comment about another thing being bad about the US being the fact that you don't have legally mandated paid vacation, but that's...
Yeah, I mean, where I work, we get a certain amount of vacation hours, but this is also not even like a career job for me. So
yeah, but I mean, I think the US is the only country in the Western world that does not legally mandate companies to give their employees a certain amount of paid vacation days. So,
I mean, that makes sense considering America treats corporations as its number one priority.
Mm-hmm. But that's let's not even get into the healthcare system. That's all this is to say, my song of the week is Sons of Odin by Manowar. Which is a metal song. And
I've heard of Manowar.
Yeah, I literally just heard it earlier today, and I was feeling like a metal song for some reason, and that's the one I picked. I don't have a lot to say.
I grew up on metal, so I love metal.
Oh yeah, one thing I was going to actually ask you about your song, and generally that whole genre. I assume no vocals based on how you described it. No,
there's vocals. Yeah, there's vocals.
Oh, there's vocals. Okay. Because
so honestly, it depends. So
you said like ambiance and like it sounded very ephemeral. It sounded like there was no.
No, you'll if you listen to different ones, there's a few that I would recommend specifically. If you want to go into shoegazy direction, Souvlaki by Slowdive, that album is a great example of that. But essentially, the vocals are prevalent, but they're also more of an instrument. They're not necessarily a feature on certain songs. Like certain songs the vocals will actually be present, and that's one thing I do like about Beach House is that there's a lot of vocals, and the vocals are really nice. But in a lot of shoegazier songs, the vocals are more, like you said, like ephemeral, where they tend to be more blended into the song itself.
Yeah.
Or ethereal, whatever I forget what
I did say ephemeral. I don't know if that fit there, but it just felt like, because it sounded like it's very atmospheric what you were describing, and that just was a word that came to mind. It seemed to vaguely fit with what I was going for there.
Yeah. No, the vocals tend to be, and especially in shoegaze as opposed to dream pop, they tend to be kind of like another instrument that's layered into it. So they'll be not necessarily distorted, but they'll be edited heavily so that they're much more blended in with the other instruments, so that they're not necessarily a focal point, but more of like another layer in the soundscape that they're doing. It sounds, I know the way I'm describing it probably sounds a little douchey, but there's not really an easy way to describe it without listening to it.
Yeah.
Because it is essentially a wall of noise in some songs.
Yeah, if the copyright gods are favorable to us, then we will have had a 20-second snippet right after you mentioned the song name and artist, so hopefully that works. Otherwise, I'll put up an info card so y'all can listen to that song specifically. Because the way you described it, it sounded like it would just be instrumental, and I tend to not like purely instrumental music.
Yeah, it's not instrumental music.
So that's definitely something that for me would be a positive thing, because I think I have about 1,000 to 1,200 songs in my music collection that I have on my computer, and I think there's 2 instrumental songs in there, so that tells you how I feel about that.
I'm typically not an instrumental fan either, honestly. There's one song recently though that is an instrumental that I absolutely love. I know this isn't my song of the week. It's literally called Instrumental though, by Black Country New Roads, and it's a really, really cool song. It's like klezmer mixed with I don't even know. It's a very weird song, and the beat could almost be described as obnoxious in a way, not in a bad way. You would have to. I know that doesn't sound good.
obnoxious.
I know
but not in a
it's
bad
you'd have
way.
to listen. You would have to listen to it to understand what I mean because it's very like in your face with how it starts off, but how it evolves throughout the song, it gets really cool.
Okay.
But it's not even my song of the week. That whole album's awesome. It's one of my favorite recent albums that came out in the past like half a year.
Yeah, I guess I'll take your word for that. But I
I
guess
listen to a lot of music.
that does conclude our little discussion here about our songs, which was once again more extensive as usual, and we got so
Got into
sidetracked. But hey,
politics and vaccines.
I mean, hey, that's what the podcast is, right? It's just a bunch of tangents, like just stitched together under the pretense of topics. And
Why not?
if you enjoyed that, whatever that was, leave a like, and if you want to see more of this, subscribe to the channel, leave comments. You know how this works. We have a Discord server, links in the description. We have a main channel, which is not currently that active, but hey, it's always worth subscribing to if you like Hearthstone.
Usually more active when there's a tournament going on, I feel like.
Yeah,
or when expansion drops.
I'm hoping to bring the tournament back soon, but that's a bit of a sneak peek for people that listen to like 2 hours of this podcast, but there's nothing concrete yet. I still have to work on some stuff because I wanted to improve a little bit of the application process and the organization behind it, because the organization is a lot, and I feel like we can streamline a lot of that. But anyways, what I was going to say is, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. I said it already. Like, comment, subscribe, and you know how the outro works? You've been here before. Pimpkarp?
That's it. JJ.
That's it.